Hello and welcome to the program. My name is Michael Finney. Today, I am joined by show director Jason Dean of the Chicago Steampunk Exposition. Would you like to say hello, sir?
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Let's learn about you. Who are you? Where are you from? What's the deal with that accent? All of the important biographical stuff.
Well, first off, the accent is genuine, but not as strong as it used to be. I've now lived in the United States for about 30 years. It was not my original intention, but here I am. And and I currently reside in the Chicago area. And and I'm running the Chicago Steampunk Exposition and other steampunk fun stuff.
Yeah, very cool. What are you about as an individual, right? Like, where are you a creative? Are you a professional? Are you maybe a mix of these things? Tell us about you.
Well, yeah, a mix of the things actually. I do like to be creative, artistic outlets and so forth. Very much involved in various other geeky things as well. I also am an avid tabletop gamer and run games at conventions and so forth. My day job, I'm an English teacher. So I teach literature and poetry and other things like that. But for a long time also, I've been an event organizer. In fact, for several years prior to COVID and the pandemic, I was full-time doing events. But now I've sort of gotten the best of both worlds. So I teach by day and then organize events in the evening.
Yeah, very cool. Let us go back in time to maybe your events production past. Where did all of that come from? What drove you to do it? I have done events in the past, promotional stuff, marketing and bands and things like that. And, it's a lot of work. Why did you take it up?
All right. Well, actually, I'm going to go a little step further back and trace my steampunk roots to 1978 and the rock opera album War of the Worlds. So that kind of set the seeds of steampunk. And then it was roundabout. And so I knew what steampunk was. I knew steampunk as a literary genre, and it was an aesthetic that I really enjoyed. And then it was around about 2008 that there was an article in the New York Times about steampunk as an artistic movement, as a aesthetic community. And I immediately thought, okay, this is what I need to get into. This is my people. And I was living in Cincinnati, Ohio at the time. And social media was still kind of in its early days back then. Yeah, MySpace. And so I went looking to see if I could find fellow steampunks in the area. I was hoping to join, whatever events they were doing and just hang out with whatever it was they were doing. And while I did find like a handful of people to start with who were interested in steampunk, nobody was actually organizing anything. And it was just sort of one of those things where I just ended up, the first thing I organized was a picnic. We just got together, had a picnic, very pleasant, dressed up in some Victorian steampunk finery. The picnic then evolved into putting together a monthly meetup, which we referred to as a steampunk salon. And I'm quite proud to say that actually the term salon kind of caught on for a while, and there were salons going on in different cities for various steampunk meetups. And then that evolved into the first convention, which was the Steampunk Symposium in Cincinnati, and that debuted in 2012. Life later took me to Chicago, and so the Cincinnati show lived out its life, and then we started a new convention in 2019 with the Chicago Steampunk Exposition, which took a hiatus during the pandemic, but has been back since 2023. And here I am.
Yeah, very cool. I think that many communities like the steampunk community need a little bit of a push. They need a little bit of a boots on the ground campaign, street teams and events to be able to organize things. We all can't just sit on the internet and talk all the time. Sometimes it's good to get together and hang out and show off a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, one of the most fun things about steampunk or many other fandoms, if you're just, doing cosplay of your favorite characters, is dressing up and being around other people. I mean, yeah, I guess you could dress up and post pictures of yourself, but actually being in an event space, surrounded by people who are dressed in fantastic costumes, people who are, complimenting what you wear, you're complimenting what they wear. I mean, it's such a great feeling, and it's something that you cannot capture in a virtual medium.
I have, I'm not deeply immersed in any great subcultures or countercultures besides music from back in the day. Maybe to a degree, the writing community, but that's, very sequestered, I would say. Not to put your back to the wall and make you define the thing, but what is and isn't in the steampunk circle?
Yeah, that was very widely debated. And once you start getting definitive about what steampunk is and isn't, there'll always be somebody who will object to that. Because one of the things I love about the steampunk fandom is it's also been referred to as an open source fandom. There's no particular entity that owns the intellectual property of steampunk. It is a very communally owned. So that's why there's kind of that resistance to an all-out definition. But the most simple way to put it is its association with the Victorian era and even the early Edwardian. Generally speaking, it seems like the cutoff point is World War One. So from Queen Victoria taking the throne, actually, maybe even a bit further back than that sometimes. People like to incorporate Mary Shelley and so forth, and she predates Queen Victoria being queen. But that span of time tends to be like historically. But even, yeah, prior to that, quite significant too is June 14th, 1822, when Charles Babbage patented the difference engine, the computer that he never actually built. But then fast forward to the 1990s, and London College and a professor from Australia built it. I mean, it took him a few years to perfect it, and it worked. And so this whole idea of like, okay, if Babbage and Lovelace had actually made these early computers back then, how would have things shaped up? But it's worth noting as well that the steampunk community is not a historical reenactment. I mean, it's very much about a future that never was. It is also very much looking at the aesthetics of the time, but with modern sensitivities and a modern political view, because there is a lot that occurred during that time that a lot of injustice and colonialization, imperialism, and so forth. That steampunk fans are not trying to recreate that. And so, like I said, an antique aesthetic, but with a modern sensitivity.
What are your favorite aspects of the culture as a person? You are deeply exposed, but at the same time, you've been doing this for I don't know, 15 years, 20 years. I think you told us you kind of got tipped off to it in 2008 or so.
Yeah, so 2008 was when I first tried to sort of, put together the picnic. So hang on, quick math here. Wait a minute. Oh my God, it's 18 years? No. Yeah. Oh, hey, seriously?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm getting close to 2 decades of being a steampunk event organizer. And suddenly feeling incredibly old. But like I said, the aesthetic is something I've been into since, the War of the Worlds rock opera came out when I was 5. And if anybody's familiar with it, it's a fantastic album, although the 2012 re-recording is terrible. But the old vinyl 12-inch came with this booklet with fantastic artwork in it. And there's one particular piece of artwork where it's the artilleryman's imagining of this underworld utopia they're going to build, and it's so steampunk. Like, and I remember looking at this picture; it's so detailed. It's like looking at a Where's Waldo, but it's just full of this sort of steampunk iconography. And even though the term steampunk was not coined until April 1987 by K.W. Jeter, the aesthetic has existed, for over 150 years. So, hang on, where were we going with this? What
What
drew
are
me to
you,
it?
yeah, well, what are your things that you identify most with?
So yeah, so from childhood, I remember loving waistcoats or vests as we call them in America,
Welcome.
and just liking the just the aesthetic. I remember frock coats before I sort of became a quote official steampunk. I remember buying various collared shirts, and I found a frock coat one time and was thrilled with this. And so, like I said, it was when reading the article in 2008 of this idea of people getting together and actually dressing up in this way that it was like, yeah, I've got to do this. I've got to find these people, get these people together. Because I do very much enjoy, yes, the fashions of the time, the variations that people put onto the fashion, um, a lot of the literature of the time, but yeah, sort of the clothes, and also something about the like scientific romanticism. It's the spirit of discovery, the adventure of inventing new things and so forth. There's something very refreshing and just it's a nice driving force.
What were those early events like, in Cincinnati?
Okay, so yeah, let's see. I remember the date. October 15th, 2008 is when we did our first salon. It was in September that we did the picnic. And I think there was six of us that showed up, but it was fantastic because, the early adopters are incredibly creative. They were sort of ahead of the curve on this one, and incredibly interesting people. So even though there was only a handful of us, it was a very just brilliant quality meeting. And then sort of we grew and grew, and I think the salon, fast forward 3 years thereabouts, 3 4 years, we actually were drawing in about like 100 people a month, and kind of bringing in a band and having a DJ, and like we increased the space that we were in, and so yeah, at the height of it all. Sadly, though, and this is the case in a lot of different cities, the pandemic really brought a lot of that to an end, and it's sort of been kind of an uphill battle, sort of resurrecting it since then.
So let's fast forward from Cincinnati to Chicago. 2019, you begin the exposition in Chicago. Great name, obviously. Soft spot for everything exposition related.
It couldn't have been anything else. The 1893 Columbian Exposition, huge inspiration for it as to like, what should we call it? But then the idea is that yes, the Chicago Steampunk Exposition, and the sort of primary narrative, if you will, is this idea of like it's a different wing of the 1893 exposition of various things that were sort of forgotten to history, or like an alternative universe where various steampunk things, although the actual real life exposition itself had some amazing technology for its time.
Certainly.
Alexander Graham Bell, and the more I research about the historical exposition, the more amazed I am at how many notable figures were there. Obviously, a whole bunch of inventions and products that we take for granted today debuted there. And so it's such a wealth to draw from. But like I said, the idea is that our event is sort of, one of the additional exposition buildings or something like that, where, weird and wacky things were there. So in 2019, yeah, like I say, that was the idea. The just theme wise, it was just, the 1893 exposition. And then when we came back in 2023, that's when we started adding sort of more fantastical layers onto it. And even though so that we introduce a new theme each year, it builds on the previous ones. So, for example, 2023, our theme was like Fae. And so, kind of really kind of looking into a sort of Arthur Conan Doyle, his interest in fairies, and the Victorians had, big interest in fairies. So, that aspect. So, we had a lot of people, with fairy wings and so forth. And it was this idea of the Fae being kind of another exotic peoples that were on display at the exposition. Then the following year, we kind of went darker, and it was actually sort of a vampire invasion. Big part of that was because our guest author was Jim Butcher. Jim Butcher, mostly known for the Dresden Files, and so having that kind of gothic urban fantasy aspect. But at the same time, he's also writing steampunk novels, so that was a primary reason to have him. So then, yeah, we ended up with these Victorian vampires sort of trying to take over the exposition. Because I should also point out, we do also have a LARP, which is a live action role playing game.
Mm.
You don't have to be part of it. It's just one of the things on offer. So if you want to kind of lean into the story, there's actually kind of, sort of murder mystery aspect or, investigations and conflicts and things going on during the weekend. Or you could just go there and enjoy the panels, go see the vendors, do all the other stuff. What we very much try to offer is kind of like a buffet of things, and you find the thing that's good for you. But this is one of the things on offer. And then last year, so 2025, we went with Cthulhu, so the sort of H.P. Lovecraft mythos, and so kind of still sticking with that darker aspect. This year, we kind of lightened it up a bit. It's Wonderland. And so there's Alice in Wonderland. And the idea that sort of portals or ways of between Wonderland and the 1893 exposition have opened up. And so, we've got this the Wonderland characters roaming around the exposition in 1893.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, next year's theme still a secret. We usually wait.
Fair.
We wait until closing ceremonies to announce next year's theme.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I don't think you don't want people to be thinking that far out ahead when you're only a couple months out.
Yeah, it works sometimes, but we kind of like to tease and kind of keep it. Like I said, the closing ceremonies. So Sunday, when we're all wrapping up in the afternoon, that tends to be when we announce what next year's theme is going to be and who our special guests will be.
So for this year in 2026, what can people expect at the Chicago Steampunk Exposition?
Okay. Well, our main author, Gail Carragher, who writes the Parasol Protectorate and other stories, she's returning. We had her as a guest in 2023. She's amazing. Our attendees love her, so happy that she's coming back. Liana Renee Heiber has been a good friend and also another writer that we tend to have every year. She's sort of like our in-house author. Unwoman, a fantastic performer from California. She's flying in. She does a lot of stuff with electric cello and is just an amazing singer. That's our main entertainment. In addition to that, we've got numerous presentations, people presenting things on sort of steampunk topics, a lot of them presenting on Alice in Wonderland or Lewis Carroll or things that are connected to that. We have workshops where people can make things, activities and contests. Tea dueling is always a classic. Teapot races, Nerf dueling, a lot of things like that. And of course, the vendors, the exhibitors. We have 2 exhibitor halls. Actually, well, 3 if you count our sort of the curiosities exhibit that we have, various art pieces and models and so forth. So yeah, there's quite a lot going on, and screenings as well. And with the overnight films, it is kind of 48 hours of nonstop programming. Oh, and tabletop gaming as well. A lot of people like to come play role-playing games, roll some dice. So yeah, wide variety. And all of this is listed on the website, chicagosteampunkexpo.com.
Absolutely. What are you most looking forward to this year? Obviously, you have the inside track, and also, you have to be defensive of your position as the curator of all this, but there's, maybe something that's caught your eye.
Definitely. Okay, so the irony, and I think this is probably the case with a lot of event organizers, is you organize the event that you really want to go to, but then you're running it, so you don't actually get to go to it.
Right.
But you get the joy of seeing other people enjoy the thing that you and other staff and volunteers have put together. And like, that's a pretty good feeling. And I think a lot of event organizers, that might be a driving force right there, because it's definitely not for the money. There's not a big pot of gold or anything, but that feeling of seeing hundreds of people coming together, sharing that space, sharing that creativity, and enjoying a weekend of escapism, that's the pot of gold. That's the big thing. Now, usually for me, around about Saturday evening, things are pretty much going good. Any fires that we needed to put out have been taken care of. And the Saturday night masquerade, the dance, is something I very much enjoy. We've got this wonderful marquee tent, and so the inside of it looks very much, if you're familiar with the ballroom scene from Labyrinth, David Bowie, and so we kind of try to go into that aesthetic because it feels like that scene. And again, seeing people coming together and having fun, and so yeah, Saturday night I really get to relax, and I think that's probably the thing I look forward to, because when we got to that bit, I'm like, great, we made it, we're good. Because usually it's pretty smooth sailing through Sunday.
Are there any things we haven't touched on yet that people should know about in regards to the Steampunk Exposition?
Okay. Well, for those who might be planning on staying at the hotel, because we have the Hyatt Regency Schaumburg is our host hotel. We do have a rooming block, so there are discount rooms available. Those are only available till I think it's mid-May. It's about a month ahead before the block closes. So if they're thinking about that, they should look into getting their rooms before mid-May. As far as ticket sales go, we continue selling those up until I think about like 3 days before the show. You can buy tickets at the show, but the discount tickets are available online, and it's always better to do it that way. Plus, also, we got these wonderful customized badges that will have your name on it, and it looks like it's etched in copper or whatever. It's not real, but it's just printed that way. It looks awesome. So, I mean, as far as getting involved, those are two sort of main things about, getting your ticket ahead of time. If you're thinking of staying, getting your room ahead of time. And if somebody is, thinking of attending, they really should. They shouldn't put it off, because if it's to grow and if it's to continue, we need people to kind of come together and come. And I don't think anybody ever regrets going, because it's amazing how many people, when it's their first time coming, and they leave with several more friends. Like it's there's just such a camaraderie, and this is what I love about the people that attend it, is their openness and their welcoming, and they want people to come and enjoy this thing and share this thing and keep coming back. And like I said, I see this. I've seen this since we started doing the conventions back in 2012. Of just how many people come away with so many new friends, and I think there's something huge about meeting people in real life, getting together, because that's what we do. Humans, we're social creatures. We need to find our people. We need to find our tribe. And that's something that really only comes to life when you do it in real life.
Absolutely. Jason, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about the Chicago Steampunk Exposition. The date of it is, just for closing comment here?
It is June 12th through to June 14th. And part of the reason we did that is because June 14th is International Steampunk Day.
Nice.
Because it marks June 14th, 1822, when Babbage patented the difference engine. There's also another story involving some students in Hawaii choosing that date, but a kind of interesting coincidence. But yeah, so June 12th to 14th this year. And again, all the information is on the website, which is Chicago Steampunk Expo.com.
Excellent. Yay. Thanks for taking the time. And I appreciate you putting all the work into the event.
Well, I've got some great people working with me as well. I mean, this is something I don't do this alone. I definitely couldn't do this alone. So I have a wonderful crew that also helped put this together, and they deserve a lot of kudos. But thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me on your show.